Hey everybody, welcome to our Friday Facebook Live event. I'm so glad you joined us for the power of networking and professional development. My name is Angie Miller. I'm an AFAA mentor and NASM master instructor, and I have with me a guest named Alex McLean, the Alex McLean. He is an international fitness presenter and educator for 3 global fitness brands. We're going to have a great discussion today about how and why you network and some tips for professional development. So Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute, just in case I missed anything about you and you want to give us a quick, brief overview.
Yes, you guys, my name is Alex McLean. I've been teaching group fitness for 25 years. I'm excited about this discussion because networking is one of those skills that we all know we need to have, but now we need to have some guidance and a game plan on really how to attack it.
Absolutely. Alex, you don't look old enough to have been teaching for 25 years. Did you start when you were like 12?
Oh, just 10, just 10.
I don't say how long anymore because then I just give my age away. So I'm like, yeah, I think I've been teaching for a few years. So, well, before we even start, let's talk about why. Why do you network? So before we even talk about building skills on how to network, let's talk about why. And I think one of the essential reasons why we network is because we want to develop and improve our skill set. So when we join community with people who we aspire to be, right away we're kind of raising the bar and we're learning new things. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we have to do a deep dive on really understanding what our skill set is. Where do our strengths lie? And then how can we amp those up? And then where are some opportunities for growth that we can start to dial in? So as you said, as we raise the bar and elevate our presence, our skill set matches that.
Absolutely. So, and one of the other things about networking, another great reason why I think is because we can stay on top of industry trends. So if you're networking with people in the industry, you work for companies that I don't work for. When I talk to you, I learn a little bit about what's going on over here in this space and vice versa. So I love learning about industry trends and everything that's going on around me just by talking to people that I know within the industry. Plus, I can keep a pulse on the job market. And I think that right now, when so many of us, I'm in North Carolina, gyms still haven't opened since March.
Right.
And so I think networking and the reasons to network are even more pivotal because when the gyms open back up, I don't even know if I'm going to have my classes anymore, what that's going to look like. So I really need to have my pulse on what's going on, not just in the Charlotte market, but all over. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And we have to start to look at how has technology really changed the game for the fitness industry, especially now in our current situation where most people are now working virtually. Technology has played a different game. Now, when we go back to in the club, if you look at how we've currently been using technology, it's been very passive. Our members would hop on a treadmill or an elliptical and they just get data. But in the past few years, since boutique clubs have opened up, now bigger box chains are being a little more aggressive in how they use the technology in a very active moment. So now when members are in classes, we can use that information to get instant feedback. Now looking forward, not only do we want to give them feedback, how can we take that same data and then start to be a little more predictive? Well, if you've done this in the past 3 days, based on your resting heart rate and your other biometric information, what is the next step so you can get your best work?
Right. That's awesome. So just kind of knowing a little bit more about those industry trends. So that's something that I actually, just got to learn from you. So that's pretty amazing. So I think also when we network, we can get some word of mouth stuff. So you can tell me stuff like that that's going on and I can connect with people in the industry. And again, you might be able to say, hey, I hear that X gym is hiring more group fitness instructors, or I hear that so-and-so company is looking for a writer and a blogger. And so we can kind of put the feelers out to see, because there's lots of different ways we could go in the fitness space, not just teaching fitness classes, but presenting, educating, writing, doing all those other things. And whatever it is that we have the most interest in, if we put our feelers out to those that we know and they put their feelers to those they know, and so it goes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about really expanding that network that you have and really casting the net wide, but also deep. One key issue or concern is that you have to let people know what you're looking for. Because like you said, you want to be top of mind when those opportunities come up so that people can give those word of mouth recommendations.
Yeah, I like that. That's true. Be specific about what it is that you want and what it is that you need so that when people know your name, they automatically say, hey, last time I had a conversation with Alex, he said that he's looking for writing opportunities, or he said that he loves to be on an indoor cycling bike. So I think he would make a presenter for indoor cycling or teacher for indoor cycling. Another thing is that we get inspiration and ideas from each other. So we network, we're amongst a bunch of people who are passionate about what they do. We're just like filled. It's like juice or gas in our engine because now we've got lots of new inspiration and ideas, and we walk away kind of ready to share what we know with our community.
Yeah, we get re-energized. Like you said, it starts to fill our tank up. We get that surge of passion again because you're getting with like-minded people. What I like is also when you start to connect with different people, you again start to build that skill set. So for example, one of my best friends is more in the strength and conditioning side of the fitness arena, where I'm more in the group fitness side. So like you said, it's a great conversation that we have, both learning from each other. And so I've taken some stuff that he's done in the strength and conditioning side and applied that programming in a group fitness setting, where also he's taken some group fitness and management tools and cueing skills and applied that to the strength and conditioning. So it's a two-way conversation. There's always a give and a take.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know why we should network. We want to improve our skills. We want to meet like-minded people. We want to gain resources. We want to get word of mouth recommendations. We want to improve our communication, make new friends, and get inspiration. So those are all the reasons why, but let's talk about how. Because networking is kind of difficult and it can be challenging, and people can say, I don't even know where to start. I know that I should network. I know that it would help me tremendously, but where do I start? How do I network? And so I think I talked about in the description that we would give 5 essential skills. And I think one essential skill of networking is that we can meet people through other people. So we can, go to meetups, go to networking groups that are globally based, that are nationally based, that are community based. Go to all kinds of networking groups, because even if you don't meet people in your space, you might meet a potential client. Yes. You might meet somebody who would be a mentor. You might meet somebody who is great at marketing, or an accountant who can help you with your business or your brand. So I think one of the greatest tools of networking is just that, we get to meet lots of people in lots of different communities, and that builds our network so that whatever we want to do, we've got a lot of people we can draw from, a lot of energy and expertise.
Yeah, I think networking opportunities exist at every place in your life, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, or whether you're out in the field, or even when you're at a coffee shop. Think about your members and your clients. They can be that connector to people that you normally wouldn't have met without them. It's a great way to, again, build that network so, again, that you can be top of mind for all the opportunities that are available to you.
Yeah. And, meeting people through other people is a key. You said a key one. It doesn't matter like whether you work with them or whether you met them through wherever it is. I always think too of, don't burn any bridges. Yes. Because wherever you go, you're always going to find somebody that you met somewhere along the way. And usually the people along the way that you might have met, that whether you connect with them or don't, it's guaranteed in this industry. It's a very, very small world. It's guaranteed that you'll run into those people somewhere along the way. So try not to burn bridges. And plus, everyone knows everyone. And so if you burn a bridge with one person, it's guaranteed that somebody else along the line knows that person, and your reputation could precede you in not such a positive way, right?
Absolutely. It's hard to separate the professional and the personal. So we want to make sure that you keep all your interactions and your touch points, and you leave people on a positive note.
Yeah. I agree. Absolutely. And another thing that we talked about that would be an essential skill of networking, I think, would be to leverage social media. So especially now, because we're not live, we're not, the Charlotte groups that I've looked up, nobody's meeting in person right now. So leverage social media, get on LinkedIn groups that are affiliated with whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to write or you want to blog, then join a writers community. If you want to speak, then join a speakers community. Do all these, there's all kinds of different networking, but you can leverage social media. You can connect with people through LinkedIn. You can connect connect with people through Instagram. You can connect with people through Facebook, right?
Absolutely. Social media is available to everybody. And what's nice about social media is that it's not location dependent. So if you have a resource overseas, it's very easy to follow them, to connect with them, and then to use them to build your network. And you can also start to build your professional profile on LinkedIn. You can also build your professional profile on Facebook and on Instagram by having separate accounts. You want to separate your personal from your professional, because in this instance, you want to network for your professional business. You want to have that clear delineation also on social media to separate the two.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That really does. And the other thing is that, finding mentors, and that's another way about networking is, if we have a good, strong mentor, that mentor can introduce us to other people in leadership positions, and we can learn more from that person. Plus, that person has a wide reach and a wide net of available resources. So mentorship is so important. And it's not just mentorship. And I've talked about this on my webinars before. It's not just mentorship in the fitness space. It's mentorship in communities and spaces where I lack skills. Okay. Mm-hmm. So mentorship in marketing, mentorship in how to work my computer and how to run my website. So mentorship comes in many different forms. We could have a mentor that helps us be a better speaker. We could have a mentor that helps us to write better.
Yeah, it's all about, again, going back to what is your skill set and what is that path to elevate yourself to that next level. And again, mentors really guide that because they already have the experience on what you're looking to do, and they can help make that transition and that elevation time a lot easier. And like you said, you want mentors who are both in the fitness space, but also outside of the fitness space, because there are things that are happening outside of fitness that are going to happen eventually in the fitness space. I always go back to technology, such as that data analysis. Think of hotels, think of airlines, think of credit cards. They already have your data and they've been sending you specific offers based on what you've done. Now, again, looking at how has that translated into the fitness industry, we are years behind all those other categories. Again, we took a passive role, now we're a little more active, and the next step is going to be predictive, based on your sleep, based on your workout plans. It's going to predict what your next workout should be. So I have friends who are in the marketing space and specifically in that data analysis space that gives me insight on how the fitness industry is going to evolve in their use and their gathering of the technology.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. And you're right, it just broadens our perspective. It gets us out of our bubble, right? Our little fitness bubble. And we learn so much about what's going on in the world. And really, we're a small world when it comes right down to it, because technologies and data and the way that we use information is cross translates to all fields, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Plus, fitness translates to every single field that's out there. It doesn't matter whether you are a business person or an accountant. Everybody needs to be fit and healthy. So what we do translates into everyone's home and everyone's personal lives. So why not have mentors that are far outside of our reach so that we can understand what is life like for an accountant? What is life like, and that's how we get better information on how to serve our clients who are in that space.
Right, and especially in personal training settings or group X settings, when you're meeting those accountants and the physical therapists, you're already getting an eye on what their daily life is based on what their movement patterns are and what compensations they have. And it's always during that training session that you're starting to learn more about their daily life and then how they can help you and then how you can help them, because again, it always is that two-way street as you go through.
Yeah, for sure. So, I was looking up some skills of networking. I was doing a little bit of research for this, and I ran across someone who talked about making two lists. And the first list would be of the people that you've already met. You already know them. They're already kind of in your fold, but maybe you want to strengthen your relationship with those people. So you have them, you know them, they're part of your network, but you really want to strengthen that relationship. And the second list are people that you have yet to meet, people that you have your eye on, people on LinkedIn or people on Instagram that you have your eye on that maybe you aspire to be like, and you know that you could learn from them. Maybe some leaders in your field. And then after you make those two lists, the people that you know and the people that you'd like to meet, then you create an action plan. And the action plan would be, what are you going to do to strengthen your relationship with the current people on your list? And then what are you going to do to build relationships with the people that you haven't yet met? So what's your game plan for how you're going to bring these people into your network? And in talking about that, it talks about how you need to focus on how are you going to present yourself when and if you meet these people. And I always think in terms of that 30-second elevator speech. Mm-hmm. So if I meet you on the ground floor of the elevator and you say, hey, Angie, who are you? I've got about 30 seconds to about the 5th floor to describe me in a nutshell and make you want to have more interaction with me and more time with me, and enough to kind of draw you in and make you part of my fold. And then the last part of that whole thing that they talked about was update your list regularly, because as you start to network and as you increase your presence, you get to know more people, and from there, now your lists are going to change. So what do you think?
Absolutely. Like you said, you have to have those two different lists, and again, there are different strategies on how you want to attack it. So you really want to evaluate your current network, because again, there could be some diamonds in there that maybe you haven't talked to in a while and you want to reconnect with. For example, I just moved cross country earlier this year, right before the pandemic, which again is not highly recommended. But I started to plan this out last summer. And in fitness, people are always passing ships. So there's one person in my network who for the past 2 or 3 years, we always talk on Facebook. We'll text once in a while, but in person, we're always passing ships. Our conference schedules just always seem to clash. But last year, through the last 2 or 3 events of the summertime, our schedule synced and we were able to have dinner with friends. And at the very last one, we were able to have about a 2-hour brunch. And it was during this time, again, person to person is so much different than virtual. We really started to connect. Then I let her know that I was moving cross country. And she's like, hey, where are you moving to? And then I said, Connecticut. She's like, I have a great place for you to go to. We have these 2 facilities, and then we're going to open up another one in this location. I said, that's amazing. That literally is within 15 miles of where I'm living. And that wouldn't have happened had I not seen her. So again, we have to have that strategy on how to reconnect and rekindle that experience that we have with our current network to find those diamonds in the rough. And then we have to look at the people that we want to be, the people whose career path that we may want to mimic. And so what is your plan on how to approach them? Because first you have to do your research. Then you have to understand how are you going to approach them for that first interaction. Like you said, in that 30-second pitch or elevator pitch, what do you want to get across? And then just as important is what is the follow-up and then the continual nurturing of that relationship. Because people are willing to help you. They are more willing to help you if they know you versus a first-time encounter.
Yeah, I agree. And it kind of goes back to that first list and that second list. The person that you knew was the person who was already in your first list. You already knew her. You just wanted to strengthen that relationship. And then she gave you people to add to your second list, the people that you hadn't met yet, but that now you could network with. I think that's really key. And now your list has evolved because now she's moved differently on that list, and now you can add more people to it. So I think that's awesome. And I think one big mistake of networking, and one of the key elements that I want to talk about networking is be careful not to just ask for something from someone. Be careful that you're also willing to give something to someone. So I think it's there's that nuance in networking where we don't want to appear opportunistic. Mm-hmm. There's that nuance where we want to appear genuine and authentic and passionate, but not opportunistic. So we want to meet somebody, we want to be able to say, look, I admire you and I would love to pick your brain, and let them do more talking than you do, right? Give them an opportunity to tell you everything that's in their system that they're willing to share. Because just by virtue of listening, we can learn so much. They don't have to hand out their hands and lead us up to the next stair level. That's not really their job. It's us to climb those stairs. But it is an opportunity for us to listen and hear authentically what they have to say. So I often tell people, if you're going to meet somebody, be careful that you're not expecting them to give if you don't have something to offer as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I always tell people sometimes the best first step is to try to set up an informational interview. So the roles are very set. You as the person are there to listen, as they're there to give any information and tips that will help you uh, throughout your career path as you go through.
Yeah. I used to teach college students, and I taught a number of different courses in the kinesiology department. And I remember I had one student who used to come in every time I had office hours. And she would just sit down and bring her notebook and just start picking my brain. And it was, it was authentically, genuinely fun for me just to sort of purge everything I knew and everything I had learned. And she was just all ears and all willing to absorb it all. And it's been really interesting to watch her career because she's actually really, really flourished in this space. But she took the time. She took the time to come in and just listen and learn and authentically gather information and not ask me for anything. The whole time she didn't ask me for anything. She just wanted to hear what I had to say. And she took my insight and information and she made good on it. And I think that that's a pretty powerful way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's that time investment. I think some people come in and they think it's going to be very immediate, where really it's going to take a certain amount of time before you go from first meeting to actually being colleagues or more friendly. Because again, people want to help you, but again, they want to help someone who is more of a friend versus a first contact. But I think that time investment is very important. I always think of it like dating, right? It's going to take a while before you become boyfriend, girlfriend, and before you become married. So again, that time aspect has to be very crucial.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny, I always refer to dating in my webinars, so I love that you brought up dating, and my second favorite thing is to set people up on dates. So anyway, so, any networking, I'm throwing, I always talk to people who I have on as a guest, and we always kind of talk about what we're going to talk about, but any networking faux pas you've made over the years or anything that you want to share that maybe didn't go your way?
Networking faux pas. Make sure that you know the person's name and title. I think one time I said the name wrong. I was like, oh no, and then I tried to cover it up, but the damage was already done because just the look on their face. I was just, okay, let me take a nice graceful exit, and I kindly excused myself from the group and I walked away. I was like, that had to be the worst experience of my life. Calling
Yeah.
them the wrong name. Like, I got it right. I just forgot one letter, which changed the first name, and that was just a deadly experience. So
Yeah.
make sure that you prep before you go, clear your mind, look at it, and then go into your approach confidently.
I love that because there's a lot of power in a name, and people love if you remember their name. There's some real intimacy in a person's name, and when we remember someone's name and we call them by name, that makes a huge difference. And like you said, know their title. And I think too, another one is just kind of going back to that whole thing of not expecting too much, just being willing to sit down and gracefully allow someone to share information, but not actually making demands or having too high of expectations. Like you said, it's relationship building. So it's a continuum over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like dating. So you might talk on the phone the first time, you might meet over Zoom, maybe someday you'll meet in person, but eventually trust is what actually builds that relationship and makes people want to kind of put your name forward.
And I think picking the right time to introduce yourself to a person, you have to make sure that their time is available. Because most of the time when we start to network, it's at a conference or some industry event where people are scheduled back to back to back. And really the amount of free time they have is very limited. So you want to make sure that you're able to meet them at a time. So if you know that the person you want to meet is at a conference, do research beforehand. Contact them beforehand. See if you can set up an appointment, even if it's 5 minutes before a coffee or maybe 5 minutes during lunch or during a happy hour. That way you're in their schedule and they're prepared versus being kind of caught off guard when they're trying to kind of decompress from the day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And you're right. Networking can be done at conferences. It can be done in a multitude of ways. I mean, people have websites. You can even email them, and that gives them the opportunity to connect with you on their own time, right?
Right.
So you can message them, you can email them, you can ask them, what's your favorite form of communication? For me, I absolutely abhor when somebody messages me on social media, because I have
Hmm.
like 7 emails plus social media accounts plus LinkedIn. If you message me on social media, I will probably never ever see it. But if you email me, or even if you know me well enough,
Absolutely.
have me on my phone number and you text me, then I'm going to be far more inclined to be able to get back with you in an expeditious manner. So a lot of times I'll just ask people, what is the way that you would like me to communicate with you? And are there good times for me to communicate with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, everyone communicates very differently. And so we have to take that step back and again look at it from their point of view and what is their preferred method of communication. Because for me, I love to text, whereas for other people, that may not be what they want to do. And
Hmm.
so again, I also think, like you said, really setting that schedule, whether it's a time or a day, to make sure that you can communicate with them and that it's allocated on their schedule so that you can follow up in the best manner based on them.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. The bottom line is the best person for the job doesn't always get the job, right? There's a lot
Absolutely.
of best people out there for a job. There's a lot of really, really qualified people in the world, but this is where networking really makes a powerful difference. It really does. The old adage is, well, it's who you know. But to a degree it is, because we're human beings. And you know what, we think from here, but we also feel from here. And
Hmm.
we need to feel that we trust somebody. We need to feel that we're connected to someone. And when I moved to Charlotte and I was applying for jobs in mental health, I started just networking with people who were showing up on therapist lists and just reaching out to them and saying, "Can I pick your brain about the market?" and that type of thing. And I met one person, and then at one point, and she said, "Hey, there's a job coming open at the hospital," and she explained the position to me, and that's all it took. So when I went to, she said, "Here, I'll turn your resume in for you," because there will literally be 300 applicants within the
Hmm.
first few hours. And I thought, oh, well, I'll never get discovered in 300 applicants in a few hours. And they take it down after only 48 hours. So sure enough, that's all it took, was for me to have a conversation with her, tell her a little bit about me, and then she sort of walked my resume in. And that's a pretty powerful thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about making that connection. Like we talked about before, it's all about that give and that take. You have to let people understand and know exactly what you're looking for so that they can point you in the right direction. Again, the power of referrals is huge. It's huge because people on the hiring process, there's a gut feeling. There's a lot more than what's listed on the paper and also what's listed in the qualifications for a job. So when you get that face-to-face interaction with them, that's powerful. What's more powerful is when you again get that referral from a person because they're also giving their word that you are the best candidate for that job.
Yeah, absolutely. We like to, it's kind of like reviews, right? We
Hmm.
read reviews before we purchase something. And it's that same thing, referrals are kind of like reviews. Somebody else has already reviewed the product and we're the product. And they're kind of putting our name out there and saying, hey, I think Alex would be a great person for this position. But, they're not going to be able to put your name out there if you're not making that list of people that you want to strengthen relationships with and making that list of people that you want to meet. And then really going out on a limb and taking risks and being willing to contact people. But again, contacting them in a safe way, not getting their personal number and calling them at 10 at night, but in fact, emailing them and saying, is this a good way for me to reach you? And is there a way that we might be able to connect?
Absolutely. The person who is doing the networking has to do two things. One, they have to make sure that they're visible. They have to stay top of mind for all the people that they know so that when opportunities arise, their name is the first name that comes to mind. The second thing they need to do is they need to be credible. They need to have the passion and they actually have to have the skill set to do exactly the job that the opportunity calls for. So I always tell people, make sure you're visible and make sure you have street cred so when the opportunity does come, you're already set up for success.
Well, and I'm glad that you talked about the street cred and the kind of the education or the skill set, because that's kind of what we were going to talk about next. Because you know what, networking is amazing and networking can be very, very powerful. But like you said, you have to have skin in the game. You have to have the credentials that support that you would be able to do this. And in this industry, with all the moving parts and with so much education and so much going on out and around us, there's just never a lack of continuing education opportunities. I did an Angie's Tips video, and it was called CEUs to Grow Your Mind and Grow Your Business. And I talked about why, professional development and gaining CEUs is so important. And for us in the fitness space, we have to get CEUs. It just Absolutely. Is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a certification, every 2 years you have to take CEUs. So in that Angie's video, what I did was, the first thing that I talked about was, if you have to get CEUs anyway, why not get CEUs to pursue your passion? So maybe there's something you don't know much about. That's what made me go on my yoga journey. Mm-hmm. I decided to become, a yoga practitioner, not just a yoga practitioner, but a yoga teacher, and pursue my 200 hours in yoga because I needed to get CEUs anyway. So why not build another massive skill set to my repertoire? So that was one of my things, was pursue your passion. And another one was get out from your comfort zone. So if there's something that you don't already teach, again, get a certification in indoor cycling, or get a certification, become your 200 hours in yoga, or get Pilates. And my other one was stretch your limits. And so, just basically keep building your skills. Right. So what do you think?
The great thing about this industry is that the more knowledge you have, the better prepared you're able to handle any situation that happens in the group fitness space or in whatever space that you're taking. So you want to stretch your mind. And again, you want to build and start to reignite that passion. You also, again, want to understand what are the gaps or the areas that you want to explore a little more in. So whether it's specific to fitness, maybe you need to understand a little more about the anatomy, the physiology. Maybe it's about the psychology that happens within fitness. So there are so many different areas that you can do that apply to each and every aspect of fitness to help make you, again, more valuable. Because like you said before, I always think about us as products, because that's what we are. We are products and we're a brand. I always compare ourselves to cars. The one thing about a car, its goal is to move it from point A to point B, right? But there are cars that are valued at $15,000, and there are cars that are valued at $150,000. What's the difference? The difference are the bells and the whistles and the perceived value. So as an instructor, you want to continue to build your skill set. So take experience first. So then once you have enough experience, the money will come later. Your perceived value goes up, and you're able to negotiate from a stronger point of view with all the experience and increased skills that you have to bring to the table.
Yeah, because, at the end of the day, like I said, we have to get those CEUs anyway. So why not continue building your skills? Now you can get certifications in nutrition. You can get, there's so many different ways to earn CEUs now. You can specialize in older adult training. You can get your personal training certification if you don't have that. If you need CEUs, why not expand and go outside of your expertise? Even if you think you never want to become a personal trainer, even if that doesn't make your heart sing, just the amount of education that you'll get from getting that certification would make it worth it. Same thing with Pilates and yoga. What you learn about anatomy and body alignment, that just makes it worth it. That's just your weight in gold. One of the things that
it's a great way to also start to dip your toe in some of the emerging technologies that are coming out in fitness, like cryotherapy, the red light therapy, mobilization work, and mobility work. It's a great way to get your first taste of it without taking a full-on course with it.
Yeah, it's funny. I just bought a little red light wand for my face. Mm-hmm. Do I look younger? So
absolutely.
One of the things that you had told me about was one of your suggestions on 6 tips for professional development, which is what we kind of talked about in the description, was you talked about choosing experience over money first. Tell me about that.
Yeah, like an analogy with the car. A car gets you from point A to point B. There's a car valued at $15,000 and a car that's valued at $150,000. The difference is the perceived value. So when you're starting out in the industry, you want to choose experience over money. Again, you want to build that skill set because the more knowledge you have, the more valuable you're going to be as time goes along. So I always recommend volunteer for anything that you can. Get as much knowledge as you can through your CECs and through personal interactions, because the more you know, the more your value increases. So then after a certain amount of time, you're going to be that $150,000 car because you have all the bells and the whistles, you have all the experience and the scientific knowledge behind that. And then you can start to choose your projects over letting the projects choose you, if you know what I mean. You're able to say yes to some projects, and you're also able to say no to some projects because of that level of experience that you have. It's
sure, you can be more selective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really good. And so another thing that we talked about was another kind of tip for professional development is, think about soft skills. So instead of just thinking about things like, I'm going to get my PT certification, or I'm going to do Pilates, or I'm going to do yoga, those are all phenomenal because, again, needing my CEUs was really my incentive, 20 years ago to get my personal training certification, right. To get my yoga, because I had an interest in those things, but I also wanted to take a deep dive in education and see the body from a different perspective, so to speak. And I'm one that if I'm going to spend money on CEUs, doggone it, I want to spend it well. But what about soft skills, things like communication and listening? Because those are just as important as the science, because we have to be able to communicate as much as, what we know isn't as important as how we're able to describe what we know and how we're able to apply that in helping people. So application is what matters most in our industry. That's why the very smartest trainer doesn't always have the most clients, and the most knowledgeable instructor doesn't have the most amount of people in their class, because it's the soft skills. It's the way that we touch people here that really matters. It's our ability to communicate and our ability to listen to people.
Yeah, we have to remember that we're a people business, and it's all about connection. They always say it's not what you know, it's what you're able to connect with people and how you're able to connect with people. People don't know, don't care what you say until they know that you care. And once you show that connection with them, then they're able to follow you along throughout whatever journey you're going through, whether it's personal training or whether it's group exercise. It's all about making that connection. Technical skills are fantastic, but interpersonal skills and those soft skills also, in my opinion, trump, because we can simplify the program, but it's all in how we communicate it to not only influence, but also to motivate our members and clients to bring their best work.
Right. And there's a lot of workshops and information out there. I mean, NASM has a whole program of behavior change, and behavior change includes a lot about communication and listening and so forth, so that we can meet our clients where they're at. We can have a better understanding of who they are as an individual and as a human before we start telling them what to do. And so I think that those interpersonal skills are really important, and however we can cultivate and build those, that's a huge part of professional development, because we can be as sciencey as we can be, and we can have all the certifications in the world, but we really have to be able to deliver information and apply it in a way that makes people want to kind of stay with us and learn from us, right?
Absolutely. And for me, I know I do both personal training and Group X. All of my personal training clients came from Group X. So it wasn't about whether I can program better than any other personal trainer. It was, in this class, I made them feel the best. And because of that, they came up and asked for one-on-ones or small groups. Again, it's all about showing that you care and that you're able to connect and really nurture that relationship. Because it all comes back down to that relationship building that you have with your members and your clients.
Yeah, and that's kind of a form of networking, really, is using our group fitness clients to kind of, or you using our group fitness members to, that it's kind of a form of networking. They become our clients in personal training. So, another thing that we talked about as far as professional development is just, and this has been brought up in my webinars before, is using this time while we're all home to take other people's classes who you might never have been able to take. So even if you've never been to a big convention, and so you've never had the opportunity to take from some of the global presenters, like you and I were talking about the other day, now is prime time. Now you can get on those global people who are, teaching over wherever they're at, and you only get to catch them at a convention. Guess what? Now you can catch them online. So pay attention to who your people are that you want to network with and the people that you want to learn from, and get online and take their classes. That's a great way to build professional development skills.
Absolutely. You have their classes. Some of them are still offering workshops to get your CECs. So you also get to take the class and get CECs with them. Most conferences are now going virtual. So you're not limited by location. Now you can go overseas and take a conference that has a multiple of different international presenters that you would never have available to you here in the United States. It's a nice, easy way to expand your network and also to expand your skill set, because, again, you want to evolve and you want to level up.
Yeah, and it precisely because you know what, they get a list if you join their class, and so your name pops into their mind, right? So
it's also a great way to test other classes that may not be popular in the United States. I know here STEP is not popular, but if you look overseas, what they're doing on the STEP is phenomenal. They have a functional STEP class, and then they have more, they call Aero STEP classes that are more dance-based around the STEP. You would never get those type of classes here. But when you go overseas or to Mexico, it's a great way to learn a new concept, again, be inspired by it, and then maybe you kind of create your own version of that class that you bring back into the club.
Oh, I love it. Good. Let's you and I go on over there and teach some STEP, because I'm all about bring STEP back. Hashtag
Absolutely.
Bring STEP back. So
and that does count.
I am that STEP instructor. So, the last tip that I kind of want to share in professional development is I did an AFAA video on how to increase your value as an instructor. And one of the things that I talk about was, if you really want to increase your professional development standing, is at the end of the day, in light of all this professional development, when I moved to Charlotte, I started teaching at a club that taught their programs, and I didn't teach their programs. So guess what? All my programs are a wash, right? Because I'm only as valuable to the club as I am in what I can offer the club. So I had to learn how to teach their formats in order to be valuable to them. So I think that we have to do that. We have to either go where there's a club that will allow us to teach the formats that we know, or we have to learn the formats of that club. And that's kind of all part of professional development is being flexible. Being flexible like that and being adaptable. And one of the other things that I talked about was, as far as professional development and kind of getting where we want to be, is we've got to sub. We have to put ourselves out there and teach a lot of different formats. And one of the things that you and I talked about is we have to be problem solvers. I actually talked about that in my video, was instead of seeking problems, seek solutions. So if we're a person who works for a gym and we are a notorious professional and we find solutions, we don't gripe and complain, and our professional development standing goes up exponentially. And it's also related to networking, because whoever it is that we work for is more willing to put our name out there if we ask them for a reference the next time we move. When you move to Connecticut, if you had a good relationship with your group fitness director, that person's going to send your name along when you move.
Absolutely. So when I moved, I worked for a chain, and so they referred my name, and then right away I got classes. It's all about your job is to make your boss's job easier. Again, you want to be solution oriented as that problem solver. And once you do that, like you said, they're going to network and they're going to push your name forward. Again, the more things you can teach, again, offer solutions in terms of your manager, the more valuable you are. Again, you want to sub. The more things you can sub in any room, whether it's the cycling room, the yoga studio, the bar studio, or the main studio, the more valuable you are versus one person who may teach only in one studio. It's all about being that, I always call it the hero in the moment, because we know from a Group X standpoint, how many times you get a text an hour before a class, can anyone sub this class is very, very last minute. The more you can teach, the more able you are to handle those situations and to be, the hero in the moment, which from your manager's standpoint is going to right away elevate you above other people.
Yeah, for sure. And that has everything to do with professional development and how we use our CEUs. And that has everything to do with networking, because that puts us in good standing with the people in our local kind of network, right? So I'm really glad that you joined me today, Alex, because I know that you're a good networker. I've met you at conferences. We've had lots of conversations. And I think networking is especially powerful right now when we're all kind of homebound and we're looking for ways to expand our reach, not really knowing what lies ahead for us in this fitness space, what's going to happen with the gyms, what's going to happen with conferences. And so really being there for one another and being available for one another, allowing other people into our fold and figuring out ways that we can do that from an authentic way. So I really appreciate all of you out there joining us for our AFAA Facebook Live. I appreciate you, Alex McLean, coming on and sharing what you know. And is there any last minute things or last things that you want to share?
I'll say just use this time wisely. Like you said, we don't know what the future holds, but when you have lots of knowledge, you're able to, and prepared to handle anything that's thrown your way. So use this time. My parents always say, they can take anything away from you. What they can't take away is your knowledge. And when you have that knowledge and then the application of that, you'll be all set regardless of what is thrown ahead of you.
You know, my grandpa used to say that too, but I would add to that, they can't take away your passion. Right?
Absolutely,
they can't take away your passion and your absolute love for what you do. And if that comes from an authentic place, I think you can get anywhere in this space. So thank you all again. I hope you'll connect with me on social media, on Instagram, I'm Angie Miller Fitness, and Facebook. And you can also go to my website. But if you're going to reach out, definitely email or text me.
Yes.
So everybody have a great weekend, and we wish you all the best.
Have